On today's episode, the U.S. women advance to the gold medal game, but who will they play? And we look at your favorite Kraken in the men's Olympics coming up next on Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Zane Begg alongside Glenn Dreyfus, and we are with Davy Jones Locker Room, where we cover the Seattle Torrent and Kraken. And welcome to Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Glenn, we have the gold medal game. One of the participants is now determined, to the shock of absolutely nobody whatsoever. It's the U.S. They did it. They overcame no odds. They didn't have to dig that deep. There were not a lot of perseverance. It's really a heroic story if the hero was Superman bunching through a bunch of paper dolls.
That's right. I mean, this has been, to borrow another cliche, the steamroller against some wet paper towels representing the rest of the Olympic field. Today, in a game just completed, USA shut out Sweden 5-0, and it wasn't that close. And members of the Seattle Torrent again played a prominent role in the victory. 5 minutes into the game, Torrent defender Kayla Barnes scored to put the U.S. on top. And little did we know then that that would prove to be the game-winning goal. For those of you watching on YouTube, you might ask, why is Kayla Barnes screaming? She's got her mouth open. That is a scream of joy because she has scored the first Team USA goal. Because it was played in Italy, I don't know if it was nighttime, afternoon, what time it was. It was early morning here in Seattle to get up at 7 a.m. to watch the game. But anyway, and I want to show you another photo for those of you watching. Barnes generously is 5'2". And in this, coming in for hugs, next to her is Lee Steckline, who is 6 feet tall. And Barnes maybe comes up to Steckline's chin. And it just shows that Barnes, who told me once that she thinks of herself as a 6-footer. Steckline is a 6-footer, but Barnes doesn't give up anything to anybody. And another way that was shown was at the end of the game. When the game was over, Sweden was on a power play as the game ended, and Team USA was trying to protect Aaron Frankel's shutout, which they did. And as the horn sounded, there was a member of Team Sweden, Lena Youngblom, who is 5'5" at 170 pounds. 5'5", 170 pounds. Kayla Barnes, not quite 5'2", 139 pounds. But Barnes was pushing her away from Frankel and going, "You want some of this?" No, they didn't want some of Kayla Barnes. She does play like a 6-footer and just very impressive. And we do have to mention Aaron Frankel, who it's her third shutout of this Olympics. I want to mention a name to you. Barbora Yugichkova. Barbora Yugichkova is a 19-year-old forward for Team Czechia. Now, why am I mentioning her? Because she didn't even play in this game. Because in Team USA's first game, Zane, Yugichkova scored a goal. And that is still the only goal of this 6-game tournament so far that Team USA has given up.
Yeah, the USA has outscored their opponents 31-1, and Frankel's shutout streak is now 331 minutes and 23 seconds. That is a video game number. The only goal she gave up was on a breakaway. The US has yet to trail this tournament and have not been tied at any point other than 0-0. Right, so they've not trailed, and they haven't had a 1-1 or a 2-2 or 3-3. They're only the third women's team. If they continue this through the gold medal game, which they're going to be playing a much tougher opponent, if they continue this through the gold medal game, they'll only be the third women's team to do that. Canada in 2006 and Canada in 2010 being the other two. So the U.S. isn't just going for a gold medal against their, to borrow a phrase from a different property, their heated rival in Canada. They're going for history. They're going for legacy. They want to not just beat Canada, but they want to put their stamp on it and humiliate Canada, which is what they've been doing recently, but we'll preview that in a future episode.
There are three other Torrent on Team USA. Hannah Bilka was on the score sheet twice, 2 assists on the second and third Team USA goals. Hillary Knight, of course, is the captain. And then there's number 25, who's Alex Carpenter. The USA team did not need contributions, at least on the score sheet, from Carpenter or Knight, but we're going to get a contribution about Alex Carpenter from you, Zane.
You mentioned her the other day, that her father, Bobby Carpenter, when you mentioned him, he is the first NHL player to go directly from high school to the NHL.
Bobby Carpenter, who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a teenager with the headline, "How's this for no pressure?" He was called on the cover of SI the can't miss kid.
I don't remember Bobby Carpenter being in the same pantheon as Lemieux and Gretzky, but maybe I missed it. One thing that I think is really interesting about international play and really highlights the quality of play in the NHL is you don't ever see these lopsided games the way you do in international play, where one team is just so much better. The USA women, they were favored by 7.5 in their game against Italy. Imagine that happening in the NHL, where it's like a team is supposed to win by between 7 and 8 goals. That just doesn't happen. And the weaker competition, it shows up in international play. And I wanted to share something from the 1998 Asian Oceania Junior Ice Hockey Championships. You can't read this. It's okay. I just wanted to find this box score. In this game, South Korea defeated Thailand 92-0. They put 71 shots on goal and scored every 33 seconds in the first period.
71 shots in the first period?
Yes. Now, they slowed down and they only outshot their opponents 105-1 over the next 2 periods and only scored 56 goals on those 105 shots. So we don't really necessarily appreciate how big the skill disparity can be in hockey, because we look at NHL players and you're like, oh man, the Canucks are playing the Avalanche and wow, this team is so bad and this other team is so good. And man, these teams aren't even close. But not even close, international play is where you see not even close. And what the U.S. has been doing, it's not like, oh man, the U.S. is really on an unexpected tear. We expected this. We knew this was going to be the outcome. We knew that U.S. is going to crush everybody on their way to the gold medal game, and then they will face Canada, and that will be their one true test, and then we'll see what happens. This reminds me of a different Olympic tournament, the 1992 U.S. men's Olympic basketball tournament, the Dream Team, and they had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley and John Stockton and David Robinson and on and on and on. And they destroyed their opponents. None of the games were close. And it set the stage for basketball to become more popular internationally. And then just 12 years later, the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team lost to Puerto Rico, which, why are those different teams anyway?
Yeah.
They did not win the gold medal that year. Basketball had improved so much because of the exposure, the international play. Countries start putting resources into it. They start developing their programs. And now basketball is a very international sport. The best players in the world are Serbian and French and Canadian and from Cameroon and Greece, and all the recent MVPs have come from outside the US, right? I'm hoping that this is the same effect we have in women's hockey, where these tournaments, they seem like you're just throwing these poor national teams to the Sharks and they're feeding on them. And then it's USA and Canada in the gold medal game. I'm hoping someday we get a third contender, much like longtime Jeopardy fans. There was Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter, and there was never a third until James Holzhauer showed up. And then they finally got to do the Tournament of Champions with 3 worthy title contenders. Right now, USA and Canada are the Brad Rutter and Ken Jennings of the Olympics. The Canadian women, they have not played their game yet. They haven't concluded their game yet. We're assuming they're going to win. So if for some reason one of the biggest upsets in the history of sport happens, then we're going to look really stupid tomorrow, and you can make fun of us in the comments. But that's not happening. Well, we have more Olympic action. A lot happened over the weekend. We're going to cover the men's tournament, which features one of the strangest situations I have ever seen in the history of sport. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, you get flight and tickets and the whole experience. This here is the pin that I got when I attended the 2023 NBA Finals. And of the hundreds of live sporting events I've been to, I think Game 5 of the 23 NBA Finals is my single favorite. Truly an incredible environment. There's nothing like it in sports. You can visit fanduel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. You've done rooftops and you've chased every happy hour, but how about one that's literally above it all? After 4 p.m., the Space Needles Pint and a Pie takes happy hour sky high, and just for $35 per person, you get entry, your choice of a sweet or savory tip-top pie, and a pint of beer, wine, or a non-alcoholic drink. Whether you're pre-gaming for the Kraken, warming up for Climate Pledge, or just here for the views, this is your night on another level. Pint and a Pie. Limited time offer, 21 plus only, minimum to purchase. Tickets at spaceneedle.com. Glenn, the men's tournament had a fascinating twist, a truly bizarre situation. Does not directly involve any current Kraken, but it is important to talk about this game first because it textures everything else that's happening in the Olympic tournament. So we had Slovakia and Sweden. Now, if you want some Kraken ties, Slovakia, captained by former Seattle Kraken Tomáš Tatar and former handsome and original Kraken Alex Wenberg for Team Sweden. Goal differential is a key tiebreaker in the Olympic tournament. Because Slovakia beat Finland and there are all these other things that happened in the game, essentially what this came down to was, in this game between Sweden and Slovakia, if Sweden wins by 3 goals or more, they advance to the quarterfinal round and don't have to do the play-in. If Sweden wins by 2 goals or fewer. Slovakia advances to the quarterfinals and wins the group. With under a minute to go, Sweden is up by 3 goals. They're winning 5-2, and Slovakia scores. Now they're only trailing 5-3. Now you have a team that's up 2 goals. I just really want to reiterate this. The team that is winning by 2 goals pulls the goaltender. They have pulled the goaltender, and they are up on the scoreboard, and they are frantically trying to score so they can win by 3. They don't do it. The buzzer sounds. The team that just lost by 2 goals, they're hugging, they're celebrating, they're happy, they're jumping up and down. And the team that just won the game looks dejected. They are completely devastated. Also, I don't know how stoic a people they are. I'm assuming, being Eastern European, they're on the more stoic side. Martin Ferrari said, it's really important to be as one team, especially a team like us. We don't have big names like Sweden or Canada, right? But we have Slavgolski. Juraj Slavkovsky said, I've never celebrated a loss. Everything has a first time. What a ridiculous situation. Sweden has to play an extra game. They have to play back-to-back days, which is, I think, the more important thing. They should beat Latvia, but it's the wear and tear. It does affect what happens as we go into the playoff round.
And just to dive a little deeper into what happened at the end of that game, Sweden, as you mentioned, had the 3-goal lead. Sweden's Lucas Raymond takes a slashing penalty with 2:38 remaining. Raymond, 30-goal scorer with the Detroit Red Wings. 1 second was left on Raymond's penalty when Dalibor Dvorsky scored the 3rd Slovakia goal at 19:21. The Swedes were that close to finishing first in their group. Now Slovakia moves to first. Sweden, as you say, moves down to third. And they did pull Jacob Markstrom up by 2 goals. And that's because there's kind of a convoluted tiebreaker system. It's not even just goals for and goals against, but it's goals for and goals against in the games you played against the other teams you're tied with in the standings. They got to find some way to break the tie, but it did result in a really, really odd scene. So elsewhere, Finland was a rude guest on Sunday. Rude guest, shutting out the host country, Italy. And you talk about lopsided scores, 11-0. Shots were 62-15. The Kraken's Capo Kakko feasted with 2 goals and 1 assist to go with 6 shots. Team Finland had 25 shots in the second period alone and 24 more shots in the third. Somehow, Eli Tolvanen did not dent the score sheet, but we like Eli Tolvanen, so we're going to mention him anyway. And Finland, despite losing their first game of the tournament, they do get that bye, and they will be off until Wednesday.
I'm trying to remember how they're pronouncing Eli Tolvanen's name, but it wasn't correct. It was like Eli Tolavanen or something. I find the pronunciation stuff pretty interesting. I don't know how you feel about when the consensus pronunciation of a player is not the way that they pronounce their name. For the Olympics, the players, they've been giving their pronunciations. They record a little sound clip, and some of them, you're like, wait, that's how he says that? Like, I know Martin Necas, he pronounced it Martin Necas. If you remember this is quite a while ago, Anaheim Ducks goaltender Guy Hebert.
Yes.
Not French. He pronounces his name Guy Hebert. And so you're like, he's a French-Canadian guy. And I think he's from California or something. So
You know what? Guy Hebert does sound cooler than Guy Herbert.
it does sound much cooler. Like I remember, Guy Hebert, yeah, that guy's a goalie. Like, yeah, that guy sounds cool. It's like, here's our goalie, Guy Hebert. I'm like, all right, yeah.
Well, there have
There's
been
no mistake.
players who have changed their pronunciation mid-careers too. But pulling back the curtain, if you want to know how I learned to pronounce Barbora Yugichkova or Lina Youngbloom, well, it's because I went to the Olympics.com website and listened to the pronunciations that they themselves gave 10 or 12 times till I could write it out phonetically.
Yeah. I guess you don't want to be pretentious and you're like, well, oh yeah, Sweden captain Gabriel Landeskog. It's like, well, okay, maybe let's not do that. The Sweden pronunciations, I think, are really fascinating, especially because they're so different than what is the spelling. Like Gothenburg, which when I visited Gothenburg, they're like, oh, it's Yotiboro. And it's like, what? That doesn't sound like Gothenburg at all.
Well, when I worked at a TV station in Tennessee, there were two counties. One was spelled Wythe. The other was Smythe. And when I got there, I pronounced them Wythe and Smythe, but they pronounced them With and Smith. So language is a funny thing.
We'll have to go down and get a cup of coffee in Puyallup or in Squim and talk about this further. Coming up next, we are going to talk about the playoff round and our favorite Kraken participating, going for a medal. The men are off today, but they're back in action tomorrow. 8 teams vying for those final 4 spots in the quarterfinals, playing against the 4 group winners, awaiting their opponents. We have all of our Kraken players still playing. Tomorrow, we have Denmark versus Czechia. Oscar Fiscal Morgard, who has played 3 games with the Kraken and mostly with the Coachella Valley Firebirds, is one of 4 NHL players on Team Denmark. It is going to be a pretty tough challenge against Czechia. They aren't wall-to-wall NHL players like some teams in this men's tournament, but they do have more NHL talent. They're overall a stronger team. They have better high-end talent. Molgaard is one of their more important key players, and he is an AHL player. Czechia, they have David Pastrnak, they have Andre Palat, they have Netchis, they've got 3 NHL quality goaltenders. They're just a stronger team overall. So, as we discussed, these talent differentials can be much bigger in international play. And while I think Denmark has played pretty well this tournament, given their talent, they are a tough out, but ultimately, I think that they are going to be out.
Well, I like this because it gives me a chance to talk about Oscar Fisker Molgaard. Denmark did win on Sunday, beating Latvia 4-2. This was Denmark's first victory ever at an Olympics involving NHL players. And for a little context, Denmark has a population of 6 million with 29 outdoor rinks. The Toronto, Canada metro has about the same population, and the city alone, not even counting the suburbs, has 47 indoor rinks. Now, there's another Denmark Kraken connection, Franz Nielsen, who played in the NHL with the Islanders and Red Wings. He's now a European scout for the Kraken. 18 Danes in total have played in the NHL, including 2 former Kraken, Oliver Bjorkstrand and Alexander True. And of course, the current Kraken, Oscar Fisker Molgaard, who wears number 12 for Denmark, and who, by the way, turns 21 on Wednesday. Happy birthday, Oscar. He was drafted 52nd overall by Seattle in 2023. He's played his first 3 games for the Kraken this season, earning his first NHL point in a win at Chicago in November. He's played, as you said, Zane, most of the season at AHL Coachella Valley. scoring 7 goals with 15 assists. And so far for Team Denmark, Oscar Fisker Molgaard, 1 goal, which he scored against Team Germany and his Kraken teammate, Philip Grubauer, and 1 assist picked up against none other than Team USA. Now, unless you work the night shift, this game's going to be over by the time you wake up on Tuesday, so we'll know who advances.
And the winner of that game gets the sweet, sweet prize of facing Team Canada. So good luck to you, winner of Czechia, Denmark. The winner of Germany, France, they get a easier path because the winner of that team will play Slovakia. Germany has, I think they've been a little disappointing this tournament. I think their offensive output has not been very good. I mean, nobody other than Tim Stützle seems to be able to score, although Leon Draisaitl has been snake bitten. He had 10 shots on goal.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and didn't score any.
Well, Philip Grubauer in 2 games for Germany has made 55 saves on 60 shots. Not bad, but 4 of the goals he gave up came in the same game on Saturday when Latvia stunned Germany 4-3. That was Latvia's first Olympic men's hockey victory since 2014. So I think Grubauer himself would tell you that he didn't play as well as he would have liked. But I think he would also tell you it's what happens now in the medal round that matters. And it doesn't appear that France will put up much of an opposition, even though they have my single favorite hockey player of all time, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. Great guy. You can't have a frown on your face being around him for 5 minutes, but he's 40 years old, and France is there because they can be, but shouldn't put up too much opposition.
In training camp, he did his first media availability, and it's like this little cubby at KCI, and he takes a few questions, and then everyone is just so clearly charmed. Everyone has like heart eye emojis. Yeah. He's charming, and he has like these really great quotes, and he's funny. And then one of the PR people was like, "So what do you think about Mr. Congeniality here?" And everybody laughed. It really set the tone for what kind of person he would be to cover. I love him so much, and I really looking forward to just seeing a little bit more belly tomorrow. So against Team Germany.
I am so glad you brought up that moment. It brings a smile to my face, just you calling it, because I was there too. And, unless you're the Grinch, you can't be unhappy around Pierre-Edouard Bellemare because he's got such a joy for the game, and he still has it. Great individual, great in the room, stayed after practice to help Matty Beniers with his face-off technique because he was a face-off and penalty killing specialist. And for his sake, I wish France had a little bit more success. But Pierre-Edouard Bellemare will go down in history as the French player with the most games in the NHL for 5 NHL teams. I think he played more than 700 games.
And he made his NHL debut at like age 29.
Yes, with the Flyers.
Very late bloomer. Really fascinating story. Not someone who grew up in some hockey national system as a kid. He brute forced his way to the NHL through hard work and grit and determination, which is his game in the NHL. Just what a delight. What a reunion. Love to see familiar face, beloved familiar face. And then his team is going to get smashed in the face by a better Germany team. Team Finland will not get to smash anyone in the face, at least not immediately, because they won their group. And so they are awaiting the winner of Italy-Switzerland, which should be a pretty easy path for them. I think Finland, after a concerning opening loss to Slovakia. We talked about it on the show. I think we both said this team is too talented, they're too good, and they are going to rebound and are going to be fine, was what we predicted. And that's exactly what happened. Finland smashing Italy 11-0 as the exclamation point. They've been playing a really strong defensive style. I've really loved Capo Caco's defense. The goals are nice, but he has really embraced his role as a strong defensive forward. I hope that this experience in the Olympics helps translate some of these things to improve his game when he gets back to the US. But unfortunately, we don't have an actual game to preview because Finland won their group.
Well, you are exactly right. And you were spot on before this tournament started, spotlighting how strong the Team Finland roster really was. And maybe we'll look back and go, the worst thing that happened to the rest of the field in this Olympic Games for men's hockey was Finland getting beat in their first game and maybe waking them up because they've looked really good since.
Yeah. So unlike the women's tournament where it is just two teams, there are other teams as well. These are the betting odds with our partner FanDuel. And a minus number means you're favored, plus means you're an underdog. The larger the plus, the bigger the underdog. So Canada is the favorite and the USA is second behind. Minus 140 to plus 210 is actually not that big of a difference. Finland is 10-1. That's what these odds are. 16-1 is Sweden. And then Slovakia is, 35-1, 40-1. So it is not as dramatic versus like the women's tournament it's just USA Canada. Upsets can certainly happen on the men's side. It's probably going to be USA Canada in both men's and women's, but we're much more live for an upset in the men's tournament. And I think if anyone pulls off the upset, it's Finland who pulls off the upset if anyone does so.
Agreed. And having said that, if the Team Canada men and the Team USA women aren't having gold medals placed around their necks when these tournaments are over, I will be gobsmacked.
All right. Gobsmacked has been declared. That is official and is in the log. It is immutable and cannot be changed. I think that does it for today. So we will be back here tomorrow to talk more Olympics, previewing and recapping all of the action going on. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Kraken. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you get all the latest episodes. You can find us at Davy Jones LR on all your social media platforms or at DavyJonesLockerRoom.com, where we do print coverage of the Seattle Torrent and Seattle Kraken. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Kraken ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure this is one of your 2 daily listens. For Davy Jones Locker Room and Locked On Kraken, I'm Zane Begg.
And I'm Glenn Dreyfus.
And we'll see you tomorrow.